Yeah. Shri Ganeshaya Namaha, Shri Saraswatyai Namaha, Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Vasudevasutam Devam Kamsa Chanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum Sri Krishnaya Paramatmane Namaha. Good evening, everybody. Andy. So today we are going to learn about Gunatraya Vibhaga Yogam. We are looking at the insights of this chapter. This is the 14th chapter in Bhagavad Gita. So we have finished chapter 1 to 12 and 16, and this is the 5th chapter that we are doing today. So this chapter is basically about dealing with the 3 gunas associated with the nature. So let us look at what Lord Krishna is trying to tell in this chapter. Okay, first he says, let us a small recap of what we have learned. In the 2nd chapter, we have seen that the self is different from the body, correct? So now that means self, we have to, what Arjuna faced was, the problem faced by Arjuna was that he lacked that clarity about the self. So Lord Krishna had to tell him about had to give him the self-knowledge. That we have seen in 2nd chapter. From shlokas 11 to 29, we have seen. So that you can go and have a recap of that. Now we'll not deal with it. But here, understanding that is very important because, see, now this chapter basically, Lord Krishna says, see, with this, he'll be promising Arjuna that I will give you the means of attaining the self-knowledge. So what is the means of attaining self-knowledge? That is understanding about the 3 gunas. So this chapter precisely deals with the understanding of 3 gunas that is related to this materialistic world. So now, that is the first shloka he is telling. Now in the 2nd and 3rd shlokas, yeah. So now we are seeing about the importance of jnana from chapter shlokas 1 to 4. First shloka, he is promising that he is giving the means of of the understanding the self-knowledge. Okay. And in the 2nd shloka, he is telling, he's saying, see, in the shlokas 1 to 4, as I said, first shloka, he's saying, he's promising that he is giving the means to understand self-knowledge. Then he says, see, the entire Srushti is done at his will. Ante, what he is doing is, what he says is, see, he places a seed in the womb of Prakriti, that is the nature, which is the inert thing. See, now Paramatma is the super consciousness. So we are all there because of the consciousness which is within us. Otherwise, we are only a body, correct? So the internal Chaitanyam, that is the Paramatma Chaitanyam or the self illumination which is there within us, that is the light of Paramatma. So he says, see, I am placing a seed in the womb of Prakriti, which is an inert thing. So until then, it is avyakta. It is not manifesting. So until Paramatma's light is falling on that Prakriti, it is inert. So you can't see it. It is not manifested. But once that light of Paramatma is falling on that is when it is illuminated with the Paramatma's consciousness, it starts manifesting and expanding. So, and then the Srushti has begun that way. So all the Panchabhutas, then all the beings have come into existence. That way, it is at the Paramatma's will. That is the Paramatma's Sankalpa that he is there at the beginning of this Srishti. So now he has decided to expand. So that is at his will, the entire Srishti has come into being. That is what he is saying. So that is the divine origin of all beings. See, just all beings have not come just like that. It is at the will of the Bhagavan. All of the beings have come into existence. Now, even the humans are part of that existence. Several beings have come, even the humans have come. But only difference between humans and the other beings is that the human is bestowed with the body, along with the body, mind and intellect, so that we can understand and the knowledge of this entire Srishti, the Paramatma, we can understand everything, and then we can transform ourselves. That is the difference between human and the other beings. So now human is not just body or mind or intellect. It is the self which is within. So that realizing that self is very important. That we have seen even in the second chapter. So the entire Bhagavad Gita deals with that aspect. So here, especially in this chapter, how to attain, how to realize that self by understanding the three gunas is the basic concept here. Okay, so now nature of soul. How to, we have seen the nature of soul. As I said in the second chapter, we have seen the various qualities described of the soul. So we are all, the self is very important. So realizing that self is very important. But before that, before understanding that self, we need to do a basic preparation. So how we have to elevate our mind. So unless our mind is elevated, we can't understand the nature of the self. The nature of the self is nothing but the nature of Paramatma. The self is equal to Paramatma. But then when do we understand that? So that to reach to that level, we need to do a basic preparation. We have to prepare our mind to go to that level and then understand those subtle concepts and then gain the, become close to Paramatma. So now here he's saying, now as I said, the self is different from the material world. So we are seeing a number of things we have discussed while discussing the second chapter. The things which are Atma, Atma is the Chaitanyam which is allowing us to understand who I am. That is Atma or the self. And other things which are all inert, other than the Atma, are all inert. Like Panchabhutas, Panchatanmatras, Panchakarmendriyas, then Pancha Jnanendriyas, Buddhi, Manasu, Atma, Ahankaram, all these things, 24 aspects are there and all are different from Atma. So once we have that differentiating, when we are able to differentiate Atma from the Anatma things, then we are preparing our mind to some extent. So we have to understand that. So we have to first master this material world by understanding the self. So self is different from the material world. That is the basic understanding that we should have. Okay. And then to reach to that level of the soul, we have discussed the Pancha Koshas aspect while dealing with the first chapter. If all of you remember, the first level is the Annamaya Kosha, that is the physical level. And the second is the Pranamaya Kosha, that is the breath level. Third is the Manomaya Kosha, that is the emotions or the mind level. And then the fourth is the intellect level, or it is also called Vijnanamaya Kosha, because the intellect only helps us to understand and analyze all these things. So that is the Vijnanamaya Kosha. And the last is the Anandamaya Kosha. And this soul is above these 5 koshas. That means it does not come to our cognizance. See, even these 5 koshas also, they are not physical things. So they are within our body. We have to, and they come to our understanding when we focus on those subtle aspects. Okay. So once we reach to the Anandamaya Kosha, it's very easy to realize the self. But to go to that level, all of us, as I said before also, all of us get stuck at the mind level. Because emotions play a very important role at the mind level. So we are all stuck at that level. So once we overcome those emotions with our intellect and go to the intellect level, and then be able to understand what is right and what is wrong, and then take a quick decision according to the context, then it is very easy to go to the Anandamaya Kosha level. So this is very important. Whenever we are learning something, we have to just analyze where we are, at what level we are getting stuck. Once we understand that, it's very easy to elevate from there. So this is the basic thing that is being discussed in the first 4 shlokas. Then what he says is, see, the soul is different from the material world that we have told. Now, how are we interacting? How does the self interact with the external world? So now soul is there, Prakriti, external Prakriti is there. Soul is the self, that I am there, and the Prakriti is there. So how am I interacting with the Prakriti? All of us can just visualize. How are we interacting? The self is there, but then it does not manifest. It is manifested through the mind and the intellect. So if there is no mind, we don't know the self. We can't recognize the self. So through the mind and intellect, we have to raise to the soul level. So with the mind, how are we interacting with the external world? With the sense organs. Okay, our 5 sense organs are there, which are there to from where we are using them to understand the external world of objects. Like we see with the eyes, we listen with the ears, then talk with the taste with the tongue, then we feel with the skin, and likewise with the 5 sense organs, we take the external objects, external things from the world of objects. That means soul is different, I told you, and the external things are different. So even including the body is external to the soul. Soul is ultimate, but the body is also external to the soul. So how is the soul recognizing all these things? Through the mind. So the mind is interacting with the external world of objects, and then forming some impressions. Like from there, we try to recognize what is there outside, and then we try to understand that, and then the mind tries to respond and react to those external world of objects. So that reaction or response which the mind is doing, that leads that it happens at 3 levels or in 3 types. So that those 3 types are called gunas. For example, see, if I am seeing an object, and if I feel that if it is giving happiness to me, that is one type of response I am giving. If it is bringing anger to me, that's a different type of response. If I am neutral, that's a different kind of response. So the mind is responding in different ways. So what Lord Krishna is saying is, the mind responds in 3 types. Those 3 types are called gunas. So the first is called sattva guna. Those three gunas are sattva guna, rajo guna, and tamo guna. 3 types. Or we can call sattva, rajas, and tamas. So now in this chapter, what Lord Krishna says is, if we understand that the entire interaction, that which is happening with the mind and the external world of objects, is natural. So the soul has nothing to do with it. So the mind is taking and accepting and responding. And this way, what is happening is, these impressions are forming in the mind. And then we respond or we act accordingly. So Lord Krishna says, the first thing is, see, each guna, we have to understand each guna. Because the way the mind responds, we act in a different way. And then the action which we are doing also gives us different results. That we'll see as we move forward. So understanding each guna is very important. Then how these gunas, how each guna dominates. Like all of us have 3 gunas, because our mind is responding. We are responding to the external world of objects. So all of us have 3 gunas, but one guna dominates at a particular time. So that we have to understand. Understanding of this concept is very important to stay focused, or to go to the Vijnanamaya kosha or to the Anandamaya kosha, because we are at the mind level. Mind level, all of us can go to that level. But from there, we have to elevate ourselves to move to the to understand what is real Paramatma, or to understand the self. So that is very important to move upwards the ladder in the Pancha Koshas. So now, when a particular guna dominates, we behave in a particular manner. That we'll see as we move forward. Then how these gunas manifest. I mean, like if a particular person is behaving in a particular manner, we can know what guna is dominating in him. Then maybe we can also help some people. What are these psychologists doing actually? They do the same thing, because they try to understand how his a particular person's mind is responding, and they try to give them the solutions. So precisely we can say Bhagavad Gita helps us to improve our psychology also. That way, this understanding these concepts helps us a lot. That is why they say understanding and applying is very important in Bhagavad Gita. Just understanding is not sufficient. We have to relate that to ourselves and then try to apply to our own self. Okay, so now we'll go to the shloka 5. From here, he's saying 3. As I said, 3 gunas are arising from the way the mind is responding with the external world of objects. So the first thing is,
fifth guna.
And one. Yeah. సో ఈ ప్రకృతి నుంచే ఈ మూడు గుణాలు వస్తున్నాయి. సో ఫస్ట్ ప్రకృతి is the external thing which we are interacting with, or every self is interacting with. So that is highly material in nature. Physical world lo we are interacting with the external thing. So this interaction, the interaction between the mind and the external world of objects is leading to three gunas. That is the sattva guna, rajas guna, and the tamas guna, or tamas, or yeah. So tamas also we can say sattva. So sattva guna is goodness. That means soft spoken and cool. People are very cool. They respond in a very nice manner. People with who where the sattva guna is there. And rajaguna or rajas leads to desire or passion. So whenever our mind is responding that way, we can realize that rajas is predominating in us. So suppose we see something and then we get attracted to it and we want to own it, or we want to acquire it, then what we do? We try to work towards that, to attain that, or to acquire that, or to to fulfill our desires. All these things are because of the rajas guna. And tamas guna leads to ignorance. See here, sattva guna is like mostly people who have gone to the, in terms of pancha koshas, if we are talking, sattva guna is somewhere where the vijnanamaya kosha is at a peak. Like they understand what is correct and what is wrong, and they are almost about to go to the anandamaya kosha. They are at a very higher level. So that sattva guna, people with sattva guna are too good. They they have desires, but then they understand what is good and what is bad. So they have that understanding, and analytical capacity is very high in them. And rajas guna, passion, it is at the mind level only. They haven't gone to the vijnana level. So once you try to understand that this is rajas guna is coming into me, we understand that, we can try to stop it there, and then from there we can move on. With what do we stop? With the intellect. So that means we are moving to the intellect level. So rajas guna arises in the manomaya kosha only, but we can move it, we can overcome that and go to the vijnanamaya kosha. And tamas guna is completely at the mind level. So vijnanamaya or anandamaya don't exist for these people with the tamas guna, because they are another thing is this intellect totally is absent in them. Or this guna, tamas guna, is like it leads to ignorance, sleeping, then laziness, postponing mentality. All these come under tamas guna. That means rajas and sattva are going to the lower level, and tamas is going to the upper level. So for such people, ignorance is at the peak, because the intellect aspect is very low in them. They are stuck at the mind level. So these, once we understand these gunas, basically these gunas determine a person's behavior. So depending on the guna or the mind, the way the mind is responding to the external objects, their behavior is also there, their choices are there, and their life attitude or life experiences, they all follow each guna. So understanding this is very important. Now in the next three shlokas, he is talking about the characteristics, then binding nature and mental state of people with sattva guna, rajas and tamas. Sixth shloka deals with the sattva guna, then seventh deals with the rajas, and eighth deals with the tamas. So now, what is the characteristic of person with a sattva? And another thing is, all of you should remember, these gunas, they are there in everybody. Kani, one guna dominates at a particular time for all of us also. So the remaining two gunas go to the lower level, and the one guna goes to the higher level. So when whatever guna is dominating, people behave according to that. If the sattva guna is predominating, they behave in a very good manner. If the rajas guna is predominating, they have that passion, that acquiring nature, then competitive spirit, then working nature, or all those things come up. And tamas guna, if the tamas is predominating, they are lazy, they are ignorant, then they don't understand what we are telling. So they have that procrastinating nature, all these things, postponing mentality. ఇవన్నీ కూడా తమస్ గుణం ప్రిడామినేట్ చేస్తే వస్తాయి. సో ఈ this has to be understood. So ippudu sattva guna ganaka, with people with sattva guna, how are they? They are very pure, they are pure and they are peaceful, and they try to be at harmony with everybody. And see, what Lord Krishna says is these gunas bind each of us in this material world. Ante binding in the sense, we are going behind these world of objects due to the gunas. అంటే మనం ఇక్కడ బంధాల్లో ఇరుక్కుని పోతున్నాం. These gunas stop us from understanding the nature of the self and moving forward in the spiritual line. సో ఈ గుణాలు అందుకని మనని బంధిస్తాయి. అంటే we get stuck at each point. So if we understand these gunas, how they are binding us, we can go beyond these gunas. So in the end, what Lord Krishna says in the end also we'll see. So he's explaining what are three gunas, and then what he'll conclude also we'll see. So now he is saying people with sattva guna are pure and they are very at a harmonious level. They are very harmonious with all the people around them, or in each context. So they don't have any ifs and buts. Their behavior is very pure. And how does it bind? See, even sattva guna binds with happiness and knowledge, because the people with sattva guna wants to learn more things. They are always happy, even in the very baddest of bad situations also they try to be very happy and peaceful. So those kind of, that way they want to acquire a lot of knowledge, and then exhibit, or they want to implement in their lives. So all these this way it binds, because if you want to acquire more and more knowledge also, you try to go behind that. So that is also a way, in a way it is binding us. So, and next they are very clear. They have that calmness of mind and clarity of thought. So that is the nature of people with sattva guna. And next the nature of people with rajas guna is that they develop desires, because as the mind responds to the external world of objects, they develop desires, and to fulfill those desires they perform actions. So that is their basic characteristic. Rajoguna invokes a lot of action oriented. So it binds the people with action, because they do more and more action, and then they try for more and more results. As we have seen, if you do action, you expect something. Then if you fulfill that, if you get that expected result, your behavior is in one way. If you don't get the expected result, your behavior is in a particular manner. So this way, what they do is they try to they get binded with action and desire. So that is how it binds the rajas guna. And these people, always they are highly ambitious and they're restless. They want to acquire something. Always they are at a that performing state. So they want to acquire something, so they perform to acquire that. That way they are always restless. Their mind is never at peace. People with rajoguna. Okay, that is rajas. And then people with tamas, how they are ignorant, and they are inert, and they don't quickly act for any kind of situation it comes to them. They don't act quickly, they don't take quick decisions, they postpone things, they are lazy, they are sleepy. So all this they don't understand. Even if somebody tries to educate them also, they don't understand. So all these are characteristics of people with tamas. Okay, and binding nature is delusion. Delusion is something, they don't understand what is happening. Now, for example, you see, Arjuna was deluded. That's what we have learned. So how was he deluded? Because he lost the knowledge of his self, and he lost the clarity about his duty. So in this way we are deluded. That means we think this body is me, this mind is me, this intellect is me. So we don't understand that there is something above all these things, and that is the soul. So we are always deluded at the mind level. And laziness, this laziness is the main hallmark of tamas. So it doesn't allow us to go forward, even in the material world or in the spiritual. Forget about spiritual world. Even in the material world, it does not allow us to move forward. So that is the binding nature. So we are stuck at a particular place. We can't move forward. And they're always confused, in a confused state, because of lethargy. They don't take proper decisions. They don't allow the intellect to work. The intellect aspect is almost missing for them. So this in this way, tamas guna, people with tamas guna are always in a confused state of mind, and they are always lethargic. So they don't move forward. That is how Lord Krishna has described these three gunas: sattva, raja, and tama. Okay, and next he says these gunas, they are always in a constant conflict. Nothing is constant in our daily life. These gunas come and go, because as we respond, as our mind responds to the external world, the gunas also keep changing, because the way it responds is only guna. Guna can be we can define it as like it's a response of the mind to the external world of object. It is if it is responding in a positive way, it is sattva guna. If it is responding in a negative way, it is tamas guna. If it is in the middle, it is rajas guna. So rajas is like people with rajas can move to sattva or to tamas. It depends on their understanding. If they understand that I am in this at this level, if they are focusing a little bit, they can move to the sattva level. Or if they are ignoring, they may fall to tamas level. So that is the danger with that rajas. So rajas, that is in the middle, and it can move to that end or to this end. So this is very important to understand. So there's a constant conflict between the three gunas within our mind, and because of this, the person's mind is influenced, and his behavior changes accordingly. Then, if as I said, as each guna dominates at a particular time, goodness, passion, and ignorance also keeps coming and going. If the sattva guna is predominant, they act in a very good manner. If the rajas is there, then passion dominates, and then that way it leads to karma or to action. And ignorance, if the tamas is predominant, then they become ignorant, or they become lethargic. They don't understand what is happening around them. They are deluded. That is called shoka and moha. So it leads to a different kind of behavior in them. That is how the people move on from between these three states, like goodness, passion, and ignorance, depending on the what guna is predominating them. Then one guna, as I said earlier, one guna predominates at a particular time, and the other two are suppressed. And the dominant guna determines the state of individual's mind and actions. So the dominant, we can always understand, depending on our behavior, ఏ గుణము మనలో అప్పర్ స్థాయిలో ఉందో మనం అర్థం చేసుకోవచ్చు. We can always understand. So if we have this basic knowledge, like mana behavior, if it is towards the positive side, we are at the sattvic level. If it is too much at the ignorance or laziness or sleepy or postponing mentality, ఇవన్నీ ఉన్నప్పుడు we are at the tamas level. లేదు, we want something to acquire, and then we are working towards that, then we are at the rajas level. So ee moodu ganaka manam ardham cheskunte, then we can always correct our behavior and transform ourselves. So because see, this all is happening at the mind and intellect level. ఈ రెండిటిని దాటి మనం సోల్ లెవెల్ కి వెళ్ళాలి, ఆనందమయ లెవెల్ కి వెళ్ళి సోల్ లెవెల్ కి వెళ్ళాలి, టు అండర్స్టాండ్ ది సెల్ఫ్ టోటల్లీ. సో ఆ సోల్ లెవెల్ కి వెళ్ళాలి అంటే యూ హ్యావ్ టు క్రాస్ దీస్ థింగ్స్. Otherwise, we can't catch up with the self-knowledge. Andukani, understanding these things are very important. Next, what he's saying is, see, manifestation. How these gunas manifest. Everything is happening internally. We don't know ఏ గుణ ఎక్కడ వస్తుంది ఎవరిలో అని మనకు తెలియదు. But if we are looking at somebody's actions, మనం కూడా understand, we can also understand at what guna is predominant in the other person. For example, see, if sattva guna is dominant in a particular person, how he behaves is, I mean, this manifestation is through the behavior only. మనం అట్లాగే కదా ఇంకోళ్ళని how gunas ని మనం ఎలా అర్థం చేసుకుంటాం? Something which is happening at the mind level, we can't see by outward గా మనం చూడలేం కాబట్టి the person's behavior బట్టి మనం అర్థం చేసుకోవచ్చు what guna is dominating in him. For example, if a person is very virtuous and knowledge seeking, ante he is always behind swadhyaya or behind learning new things, he wants to progress spiritually. So all these things are a nature of action ni batti we can see we can understand in a particular person which guna is dominating. So if the person is virtuous and knowledge seeking, we can know that sattva guna is dominant in him. And the result is, what result it gives? He progresses spiritually and he's always contented, because he does not, he understands that see, in this world of objects, everything is temporary, nothing is permanent, correct? So whatever we are whatever work we are doing also, that is for a living we are doing. So with that contentment, or he tries to be contented, and he tries to progress spiritually. So this is how sattva guna will be manifested in any person, that we can understand by seeing his behavior. Then rajas ganaka dominate cheste, that person, he's always active, some work or the other thing he will be doing, and he is always behind materialistic goals like earning more money, or accumulating more wealth. All these things he'll be doing, and to do that he tries to do particular actions, working more. So he is always action oriented. People, if a person is more action oriented, we can know that rajas guna is dominating in him. And then if the tamas is dominant, and then what is the result? He gains a lot of money, he accumulates a lot of wealth, but he is always dissatisfied, there's no contentment. So if we understand this, then we can move on from the rajas to the sattva level very easily. If you understand, if you are always dissatisfied with a particular thing, you can try to be contented. That will lead to the sattva guna. If you can understand that you are at the rajas level, and then move on to the sattva guna. But if you are ignoring that, there is a danger that you will fall to the tamas level. Because see, we have seen a number of times, we see people who they try a number of times and then they give up. They say, I can't, this will not happen with me, this is not my cup of tea. We listen to such words also, because at the rajas level, if you are not working properly, you may fall to the tamas level. That is the danger. So rajas is in the middle. So that is our option now. By understanding all these things, we have that option of moving upward or falling downwards or staying at that level also. So all of us, Lord Krishna has given us that option now. By giving us this knowledge, he is giving an option, like, now you can transform yourself, you can move up the ladder and go to the anandamaya level and realize the soul, or you be at the tamas level and you try to go to the lower levels. That is, the choice is yours. That is what he's saying. So then tamas, if the tamas is predominant, how those people are very inactive, they're always lazy, they want to postpone things, then they have, or it leads to destructive mentality also, because they are never contented. So the intellect level is totally absent. So what does the mind, the emotions are playing a very crucial role for them. So whenever the emotions are playing a crucial role, they take decisions depending on their emotional activity, but not at the intellect level. So that is the reason many people who are committing crimes or they are doing bad things, we see a lot of them in this society. That is because the tamas guna is predominant in them, and they are not working towards coming up the ladder. So they don't work towards that. What will happen is it leads to destructive mentality. So as I told you in the second chapter also, so whenever their actions are not fulfilled or they don't get the desired results, what will happen is they get angry, or it leads to more and more unnecessary anxiety, all these things, and then they try to do unnecessary things. I mean their intellect is totally absent, so they do whatever they want, and finally it may lead to destruction also. So that is the nature of tamas. And then the result is regression. They are always they're not aggressive, they are very regressive. They want to go back and back. They are not they don't move forward, they move backward. So that is the reason, and their mind is at a stagnant level. That is the result that tamas is giving. So if we are seeing these these kinds of behavior in anybody, this we can understand that particular guna is dominating in them. That means their mind is at that level. So they are operating that way. If some people are using their intellect more, that means they are trying to move up the ladder. They want to attain more peace and contentment and be at a stable level. But if you are at the lower level, you're very unstable. You're not stable. If you're going up the ladder, you're stable. So this, and Rajas is in the middle. So you have to either go to the stable level or you will fall to the unstable level. So you have to take that route. So this is how gunas manifest in all of us. Okay, now you see, you can see this example with a tree. It is being explained. Like a person with sattva guna is very cool. You see, he wants to pick up the fruit very coolly and without any anxiety. Whatever is falling down, he's picking up. But a person with rajas guna is little more aggressive. He is climbing up the tree and he is picking up. That means he can't wait. So he is showing that inquisitive nature to acquire something. And then tamas guna, see, because he could not, maybe we can understand like this, because he could not get any fruit, he is burning the tree itself. That means he understands this way. Oh, if this tree is not useful for me, why should it be there? So I'll burn it out. So that's a kind of behavior a person with tamas exhibits. So this way, sattva guna people, rajas and then tamas, they have different kinds of behavior. So it manifests also through their behavior. What guna is dominating in them will be manifested. Okay, and then so in he's summarizing within 14 to 18 shlokas. Lord Krishna is summarizing once again, like sattva is leading to higher knowledge, because that person is knowledge seeking, and then righteous actions, he knows what is right and what is wrong, because intellect is working at the fullest capacity for him, and then eventually he grows spiritually. Says, what is spiritual elevation? Spiritual is something, it's nothing to do with the spiritual is understanding your spirit, that's all. Keeping your spirit at an elevated level. So what is your spirit? The self. Your self is the spirit, actually. So some people exhibit this self spirit at a very higher level. That is how they try to achieve a lot of things in the materialistic world also. Because see, nothing can be achieved in the materialistic world without a cool mind and cool mentality. Because if you have to achieve something also, you need to analyze and then work towards that efficiently. For that also, to achieve something also, we need to keep our spirit at a higher level. So spiritual elevation is not just in the what to say, with something related to eternal world, but in the physical world also. That is very important to be spiritual. Spiritual is nothing. See, you need not think that spiritual is something related to the eternal world. Even in this world, living in this very world, we can keep our spirit high. We can understand who I am, what I am here for, and then we can work accordingly. So this sattva guna leads to eventual spiritual elevation. So because your Vijnanmaya kosha is at an elevated level and you move on to the Anandamaya kosha, from there realizing self is very easy. So that eventual spiritual elevation is possible only with sattva guna. Okay, and then rajas, it results in restless activity because of continuous flow of thoughts or continuous flow of desires. The person with rajas, he tries to fulfill those desires in a continuous manner. He tries to go to any extent to that to achieve that, and because of those things, he develops attachment to the people or even to the material things also. And then finally, he can't overcome those things, so he can't develop sattva guna very easily if he is stuck at the rajas level. And what will happen is, because of these attachments, rebirths are possible. That is what Lord Krishna is saying. See, now, as we told, this body is there, then the soul is there. So once the body falls off, what does the soul do? We have learned in the second chapter, it goes into another body. Dehi nosmin yatha dehe. So it is very natural for the soul to go into another body. So what he's saying is, people with sattva guna, if it at the time of the falling of the body, if the sattva guna is at the predominant state, then those people get births in good families, or at a higher births they get. Otherwise, which is again leading to suffering only, because see, even if they are born again, whatever it is, it leads to suffering. So rajas leads to rebirths and further suffering. So at some point of time, they have to understand this and they have to correct themselves. That is what Lord Krishna aims to tell. And then tamas. Tamas causes delusion. As we said, because that intellect aspect is not there, it becomes zero. So they don't understand what is right, what is wrong, and they just try to retaliate. Even if somebody tries to advise them, also they don't take those advices, and they get degraded from their existing level. And even in the next birth also, Lord Krishna says they go to lower levels of birds, like animals, trees, or other birds where mind is absent. Because see, now they are not using with the mind, they are not able to go to the intellect and the higher level. So in the next birth, what will happen is they will be born in other species where mind itself is absent. So only in human birth we have this mind and intellect. So what Lord Krishna says is sattva leads to rajas and tamas. These things, if they are predominant at the time of death for anybody, so it leads to further births. And rajas is okay to some extent. They try to get to a better birth, but they work a lot. And tamas to a lower births. That's what he's saying. And so this is what he has told. Then he says in shlokas 19 and 20, he says, see, now we have understood the mind and intellect are there. Then we have to go above this mind and intellect to realize the self. So the self is beyond these three gunas. So now that means self is beyond the mind, that we already know. So if we understand these three gunas, then we can try to go above these three things and then realize the self. So now that means transcending these three gunas. That means gunatita, he says. That means three gunas also we have to go above them. Even sattva guna also, but to some extent sattva guna is good. So we can try to stay at the sattva level. But if we are able to go even beyond that, then realizing self is very easy. That's what Lord Krishna is saying. Then Arjuna, in shloka 21, Arjuna is asking Lord Krishna to explain what are the qualities of a transcendent person. That means a person who has gone beyond these three gunas, how does he behave? That's what he's asking. Somebody would be there, no? Whoever has gone beyond this, he is a transcendent person. సో ఈ మూడు గుణాలని కూడా దాటుకుని పైకి వెళ్ళిన వాళ్ళ బిహేవియర్ ఎలా ఉంటుంది అని అడుగుతున్నాను. సో ఫ్రమ్ 22 to 25, Lord Krishna is explaining the qualities of a person who is transcendent person. That means he has gone beyond these three gunas. He understands what is what, and then his behavior is there accordingly. Now he says in Shloka 22, he says, people with this, whoever has gone beyond these gunas, they, what is this? They are non-reactive to the gunas. See, they know these gunas are coming and going. Whenever their mind is interacting with the external world, some reaction is there, but they understand that this is because of this interaction. So they try to be ignorant of these gunas. So they don't take up those gunas. They just try to be stable. They don't want to get into these aspects. Suppose sattva guna is there and it demands being good. That also they don't give value. They want to be equanimous in all circumstances. And if suppose rajas is predominant, then they want to acquire something, they want to earn something, that also they ignore. They understand because this desire is because of this guna, so I'll ignore that. That kind of behavior they exhibit. And equanimity. And if tamas is there, they may get more angry, then they may get deluded, they may become lazy, all these things. So whenever such gunas are predominant in them, they immediately understand that and they try to be non-reactive to these circumstances. That is how they be equanimous in all such situations. And they are not attached to any person or any situation. They are always neutral. See, when you are not reacting to the gunas, that means their intellect level and their if you talk in terms of panchakoshas, they are at the anandamaya level. They don't want, even if their intellect is also at the peak level. So they understand what is correct and what is right at the sight of it. They need not even think a bit of it. They immediately understand. So this is how a person who has gone above the three gunas behave, and they are neutral to any situation. So this is, and they're always steadfast in the self knowledge. That means they understand, they have realized the self. So with the help of a guru, with the help of a mentor, or with their own sadhana, they have realized the self. So they know the self is the ultimate, and all these things are temporary. They don't want to get into the world of these materialistic objects anymore. So they are always equanimous. Okay. And then see, for such people, honor and dishonor does not matter, and they don't even see if they see gold, they don't even give value to gold with respect, or to the sand also. See, sand and gold, for example, they look alike. If you are melting the gold, it looks like sand only. Similarly, so they give equal value. That means they look upon the gold also equal to sand. That means that does not matter to them. The value of object does not matter to them. It means that sama loshtashma kanchanaha. That means between gold and the sand, they don't value the gold. They see both equally. That means the value of the object does not really matter to them. So impartiality towards friend and foe, and they don't have any differentiation between a friend and an enemy. All are equal to them. These things we have seen in the 12th chapter also, if you remember. See, after 12th chapter, he has described how his bhaktas are there in the 12th chapter, and then he is coming to the Gunatraya Vibhaga Yoga. That means first, whoever has developed those qualities through devotion, they can easily transcend the gunas. That is what Lord Krishna is trying to say. So transcending gunas is very easy if with devotion, unwavering devotion. Devotion is, again, go back to the 12th chapter and see what he has told about the devotion, and what are the 35 qualities that he has described for a perfect devotee. So once you develop these qualities, transcending the gunas is very easy. That is what he's saying. And then he concludes that whoever is transcending these gunas, that means who is beyond these gunas, who understand these gunas, and they transform themselves through devotion, they attain that bliss of what? The self. They realize the self, and then they are at the highest level of happiness. That is liberation, precisely. So liberation from what? From sorrows. So in this physical world, we are being liberated from the sorrows of this materialistic world. So that is the liberation. And by understanding the bhakti yoga and the gunatraya yoga completely, we can transform ourselves, and then try to be at the highest level of contentment and happiness. This is the chapter that he tried to explain. It's a very small chapter, but very powerful and very important also, because unless we understand the how these gunas are forming in us, we can't transform. Because once we know which guna is dominating in us, we can immediately correct ourselves. So understanding this is very important. And then let us quickly recap what he has told. So sattva guna, three gunas are developing because of the interaction of the mind with the external world. So those three gunas are sattva, which leads to goodness; rajas, which leads to passion or desire; and tamas, which leads to ignorance. So these are the three gunas. So precisely, all of you can note down what is a guna. Guna is the result of the response of the mind with the external world of object. So whenever the mind responds, so these gunas are formed. So once you understand this, it's very easy to transform ourselves, to correct ourselves. Okay. And then sattva is characterized by purity, knowledge, and harmony. They are very peaceful because they understand what is right and what is wrong, and what to give up and what to hold on. All these things they know with the people with the sattva guna. And it leads to enlightenment and virtuous behavior. They're always good. And rajas, it is associated with desire, action orientation, and restlessness, and it results in attachment and suffering. Because it and then tamas is marked by ignorance. Ignorance of what? Basically, ignorance of self knowledge. They don't understand who they are. They completely they associate with the external world of objects and with the body, and then they try to act accordingly. So it's ignorance is at the peak level, and laziness because of that, because their intellect is almost absent. Delusion, because they don't know what is right, what is wrong. They don't even want to think, and it leads to stagnation and confusion. And so gunas arise from prakriti. Basic thing is that we have seen, no? Because of the response of the mind with the external world of the object. So it binds the soul. So basically, what is happening is when the gunas are happening because of the mind's response, the thing is, soul is actually untouched by all these things. So but it manifests with as mind and intellect in the human beings. So whenever we take the self to be the mind or the intellect, but actually the self is above these two things. So whenever we are at the mind level or at the intellect level without going to the upper level, what we do is we with our actions we try to bind the soul, because the soul is the thing which is though it does not do anything, or it does not get into all these action modes, but the soul is being binded, because the soul is transcending from one body to another or from one world to another world. It's the soul which is transcending. So the mind is actually binding the soul. That we have to understand. This is the crux of this chapter. Actually, we are binding the soul. Not we are not binding the mind or our body. The body will anyway go, and the mind, when the body goes, the mind also goes. But the soul is permanent. The soul is permanent, and it moves on from one world to another world, or from one body to another body. And the birds we have seen, what kind of birds they get because of the gunas. So once we understand all these things, how we are perceiving the external world will change. So these are all temporary. What is permanent? Only the self. So we have to hold on to the permanent thing, just leaving the temporary things. That is very important. Then each guna affects the individual's behavior. That we have seen how it is affecting, and it leads to different outcomes based on which guna predominates. So one guna predominates at a particular level. But all the gunas, three gunas are there at all the times, and if we are, it responds in a different way. So, but one guna is predominant. And then detachment from gunas and equanimity helps a person to achieve external bliss. This is very important. So, detachment from the gunas, in the sense you have to rise above the gunas. So, don't get stuck at this interaction level where the mind is responding with the external world. So we try to get stuck at that level. So we have to detach from this level, and then move on to the equanimous state of mind. That will help a person to achieve the self knowledge, and to retain that also, achieve the self knowledge and then stay at that level. That is the steadfastness we have seen in second chapter, if you remember, sthita pragnata. So after gaining that knowledge, you have to that has to be stable in your mind. That should not fall down. So you have to always stick to that wisdom. And then transcending the gunas in the sense you ignoring, like you don't get stuck at that level. You rise above this. You understand what is happening, and then try to go above that level. So that will help only through devotion with bhakti yoga. That's what he's saying, and he's concluding this chapter. So very powerful chapter, yet small, but it's very important to understand these things. And the next chapter, which we'll be dealing, the 17th chapter, Shraddhatraya Vibhaga Yoga. Understanding these concepts is very important to understand that chapter. So all of you just go back and understand these in depth. So we'll meet again with the 17th chapter next week. Any doubts you can ask. Shall we end the class? ज्ञानानन्दमयं देवं निर्मलस्फटिकाकृतिम् आधारं सर्वविद्यानां हयग्रीवमुपास्महे